Hey guys, I'm back on another nice cold October day outside around sunset. Now, why am I here at this time of day and what's going on? Now, if you're thinking about buying a camera, like getting your first actual camera, if you're anything like me, you really had no idea about lighting conditions and what you need to film in different lighting conditions. Now, I wanted to just grab a camera that I could just take with me and film anytime I wanted. Say if you want to vlog, nobody vlogs anymore, it's out of style, but, I kind of like vlogging. I wish people still did it. But say if you want to do that, a lot of people still want to do that. You just want to take a camera with you that you can film yourself anywhere, anytime, and just capture whatever you want to capture. So you wind up in a situation like this, near sunset with a lot of overcast. If you have a camera like this, you're not going to be very happy, and I think you'll probably be able to see it. And what I've got here is 3 cameras, just to give you a rough idea of the low light performance you get out of just regular cameras, and also a little bit of a stabilization test while we're here, just for interest. I'm going to do maybe a better one in better light later. So this is the Pocket 2. Let's give you an idea of what it looks like in this sort of light. It's a small sensor camera, small sensor look. You're going to find it then probably getting quite noisy right now. And all these are in auto exposure. I've got 2 mirrorless cameras here on either side of the Pocket. They're set to wide open aperture with auto ISO, and this Pocket 2 is just auto everything. Now here, we've got a GH5. Now I'm going to just tap to focus it on myself again to make sure we're still in focus. That's another thing. If you're going to use a GH5 and you want to do this kind of stuff, or you want to do, film yourself anywhere, you got to be aware of that it's not going to follow me. So if I come like this, I'm not going to be in focus. So I come up like this and I tap it, and you're in and you're good. But you got to stay within a range. So this is Micro Four Thirds. Give you an idea of the low light, sunset with overcast. See you're outside at something, whatever, and you just want to throw out the camera and film yourself or film somebody else. This is what you can expect on that. Take a look for quality of picture, the noise, is it sharp, is it getting less sharp, and so on. And then when it comes to low light, what you generally really want, if you can, is something like this, which is my A7IV. Now this is sitting at ISO 1600 right now. It's on auto ISO, and of course it's auto focusing, so I can go wherever I want. It's gonna follow me, which is the great thing about the Sony cameras. And it's still following my eye even in this low light. This is full frame, of course. So you're talking a whole different category of things, size, cost, and everything. But this is kind of what you can see. The sun is actually now set, so it's now behind the horizon. So this is essentially like twilight. This is the A7IV, of course, with a Tamron 17 to 28 lens on it, wide open at 2.8. I have it set to 24 millimeters to match the Panasonic because it has a 12 millimeter, which translates to 24 in full frame. I'm really curious to see how this looks because I haven't used this camera much in this kind of weather or this kind of lighting condition at all. So let's go back to the Panasonic, to the GH5, and see how it looks. Panasonic doesn't tell you what the ISO is when it's in auto ISO, so I don't know what it's at. I do know that I'm still at auto ISO and I'm in 2.8. This is also in Cinelike D. I'm running all these cameras today at different picture profiles, but they're at what I consider the easiest picture profile in each camera. In this case, the GH5 is in Cinelike D. Why is that? Well, because it's easy to use. Log in the Panasonic does not do well in low light, so I purposely didn't use it. Cinelike D is easy to use, it's easy to grade. It's fairly close to something usable right out of the camera, but you can tweak it enough and it's not overly saturated, so it's nice to work with, easy to work with. The A7IV is on S-Cinetone. I find it just looks pretty nice right out of the camera most of the time. Again, I'm not trying S-Log3 because that's just a whole other can of worms. Most people who are going to pick up a camera to just throw on themselves or throw on something else are not going to be filming on log. And back on the DJI, now that's getting a little bit darker, how does that look? Is it still able to autofocus on my face? I don't know, I can't tell because the screen's way too small. This is in D-Cinelike just because the standard profile is absolutely terrible in reduced light, and Cinelike D you can generally get away with it a lot better. Let's just take a look at all 3 together now if we can just stretch it a little bit, cut me into 3 pieces here or whatever we do. Give you a bit of an idea of what kind of exposure you get with automatic everything on these three cameras, from tiny 1.7 to micro four thirds to full frame. Now before I go, I'm just going to do a quick walking stabilization test. Now why do we do that? Well, it's for a couple of reasons, not just for the stab, but also because we're going to get different light turning in different directions. So let's see how it handles something like this. Again, this is twilight. So I'll take the Pocket 2. So let's give you a bit of an idea. Of course, you have an actual gimbal on here. The stabilization is going to be pretty good. The Z-axis up down is not so great on this just because it's so light and so little jiggles you see. I'll just give you a bit of an idea. We're facing into the sunlight or the twilight now. I turn over like this. Shouldn't be turning so fast in 24 frames per second. Of course, I disappear whenever you put the sun behind me. So we'll set the Pocket 2 down. Now we're going to pick up the GH5. Now, of course, with the GH5, when I pick it up like this, I'm going to have to hold it out, press to focus. Now I should be in focus. GH5, of course, is known for having really good stabilization. You wouldn't probably just hold it on your arm like this, but if you're just starting with something you don't want to buy a ton of gear, maybe you would, right? So this walking about the same way, give you an idea of the kind of stabilization you get with the GH5. It is much heavier, of course, and I'm holding it out further than I had to hold out the Pocket 2. I think it's going to be pretty good stabilization considering it's a real camera. And last, we'll pick up the A7IV. In this case, you just hold it by the lens because the lens is mammoth. The nice thing about this, though, of course, is you can go right back to here. So I can actually put my elbow against my chest here, and I'm at probably a pretty similar field of view than I was holding the GH5 at arm's length. But you can get a 9-18 for the GH5 if you really want. Though that lens is not stabilized, so your stabilization is not going to be as good, but really, it's still probably going to be better than this. This is your Sony IBIS. Fully extended arm now, so you get an idea of more of the kind of shake you're going to have with that lever being out that far. And we'll set it back down. I'm curious to see how this is actually too, especially with the slower reading sensor. And now we're back to the Pocket 2. How's this looking now, guys? This is not great light at all. And this is the kind of thing where you get inside your house in a room where you don't have a whole lot of light on you, even though there's lights on. You're going to see stuff like this. You know, what's going on up there, and probably all over me as far as noise goes. You're going to see that with a small sensor camera inside or outside in lower light. It makes it much less usable. Now, if we look at the GH5, again, I'm going to focus myself again here. Look at the GH5 though. You know, how much better is this? It's probably better, but is it a lot better? I don't really know. We'll have to find out, I guess. But a lot more gear to carry around with you, bigger outfit, but do you get that much better picture? I think you do. I'm going to find out when I watch this back. And of course, A7IV full frame. We're now at ISO 6400 in S-Cinetone. Probably not, I mean, that's a lot of ISO. I don't know what the GH5's at, but it's got to be cranking it. If this is at 8,000 now, it's just floating on. So we're getting quite dim here now. We're getting around 8,000 ISO now. So this is like kind of really pushing what you would actually use. But just to give you an idea. But, you know, you find yourself in situations like this if you're ever outside or if you're inside at night with just regular house lighting. You know, this is what you get with full frame on automatic. This is what you get with micro four thirds on automatic and a 2.8 lens. And this is what you get with a small sensor like a Pocket 2 or an action cam. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you again soon.